Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janiranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janiranjana Jaya Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Baladeva Jaya Subhadrama Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivishakacharya Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Abhay Charanaravindha His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivishakacharya Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasya Prayeshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this evening's Srimad Bhagavatam class, coming to you live from ISKCON, Sydney. So we have been meditating on different personalities from Srimad Bhagavatam, looking at their various qualities, their devotion to Lord Krishna, the Leelas in which they were involved in, how they served the Lord Shri Krishna, and that way they have been inspiring us so that we can learn to follow in their footsteps. So last week we started looking at Queen Rukmini, who is none other than the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, Srimati Radharani herself, her expansion in Dwaraka as the eternal consort of Lord Shri Krishna. So we looked at some of the first part of the pastime in which Princess Rukmini got married to Lord Krishna, how she fell in love with Krishna just by hearing about him, and of how she was then kidnapped by Lord Krishna, and then we left it there. So before we continue today, let us do our Mangalacharan and take the blessings of Srila Prabhupada and all our Acharyas. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhute Mahadbe Yaima Puro Vibhu Nirmaya Shete Yadamo Shupurusha Bhunter Gunamsho Dashashoda Satmaka Solam Krishishta Bhagavan Vachamsi Me Shri Krishna Sharanam Sharanagatam Katha Amritam Satatapi Batam Bhakti Vedanta Margapantanam Sarvaloka Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam Sarvaloka Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam. Hare Krishna again, everyone. So today we are looking at Queen Rukmini, the beautiful pastime of how the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna married Princess Rukmini. So we'll just do a little recap to see what we discussed last week, and then we will continue with today's discussion. So Queen Rukmini, she was the daughter of King Bhishmaka, that is the king of Vidarbha. So Rukmini was also known as Vaidarbhi. Now from a very young age, just by hearing about Sri Krishna from all those sages and all the visitors, whoever came to the palace of King Bhishmaka, just by hearing from them about the qualities, the character, the strength and the beauty of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, Rukmini fell in love with the Lord. And then she was very determined that she's going to marry only Lord Shri Krishna. And in the meantime, what had happened, Rukmini's elder brother, that is Rukmi, he was not very favorable with Lord Shri Krishna. So he arranged Rukmini's wedding with Shishupal, who was a staunch enemy of the Lord. Now, obviously, Rukmini didn't like this because she has made up her mind that she's only going to marry Lord Shri Krishna. So what did she do? She wrote a beautiful letter for the Supreme Lord, and she sent it through a Brahmana, through a messenger, asking Lord Krishna to come and to kidnap her on the day before her wedding. Now, we can think that how did all this happen? Is this all right? But we have to understand that Princess Rukmini is none other than an expansion of Srimati Radharani. So whenever Lord Shri Krishna descends onto the material world, then even Srimati Radharani, who is the internal energy of Lord Shri Krishna, she also expands herself into different forms to become the consort or the wife or the partner or the lover of Shri Krishna. And through various forms of her manifestation, she serves the Supreme Lord with various different moods. So what happens? Rukmini, she writes this beautiful letter and she is now wanting to unite with Lord Krishna. So the Brahmana comes, he takes the letter and he comes to Dwaraka to see Lord Krishna. So first, Lord Krishna invites him, he pays his obeisances, he welcomes him, and he inquires about him. Is everything okay? Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Is the king looking after you properly? And after asking all this, he then asks the Brahmana, now tell me, what is the purpose of your visit? Then the Brahmana takes out the beautiful letter that Rukmini has written and he starts reading out. And Rukmini says, Shrutva gunan bhuvana sundara shrinvatam te nirvishya karna vivarair haratongatapam rupam drisham drishimatam akhilatalabham Tvai achyuta vishati chetamapatrapam me. So Rukmini says that just by hearing about you, O my dear Shri Krishna, Bhuvana Sundara, O beauty of the worlds, just by hearing about your qualities and your character and your strength, I have fixed my shameless mind upon you. And then she says that for whoever hears your qualities and whoever sees your beautiful form, your vision in their heart, just by entering their heart through their ears, you remove all their distress and all their material pangs. So Rukmini is saying that by hearing about you, it is so pleasing for my heart and you have captivated me completely that now I am determined to marry you. And then she goes on to give a beautiful plan for Lord Krishna to come and take her away. So she says that just the day before the marriage that is about to happen of Rukmini with Shishupal, she says, just before the day, from our family, we all go to the temple of Goddess Ambika. So we will be going out in a procession. And then she says that at that time, you can come and you can quickly take me away. Because she knows that if Krishna had to come inside the palace and then fight with her relatives and all that, she says, oh Krishna, don't worry about all that. So here is an idea for you. Now, very sweetly, she expresses her heart to Shri Krishna. So as soon as Lord Krishna hears this, now he says, just as Rukmini is determined to marry me, even I have fixed my mind on her. She is very beautiful, endowed with wonderful qualities. And even I am very eager and I'm also in love with her and I want to marry her. So saying this, Lord Krishna, he takes his chariot and he calls his charioteer Daruka to take the chariot and he goes immediately overnight to Vidarbha. And on reaching Vidarbha, King Bhishmaka has made huge plans for the wedding. So all the kings, they're all there, and the whole city is just jubilant and festive. And everyone is eagerly looking forward to the wedding of their princess, Vaidharbi, with, actually, it was to be with Shishupal. But then what happens now? Rukmini is inside the palace and she's getting anxious. What is this? Still, Krishna hasn't come. And still, even the Brahmana through whom I sent the messenger, even he hasn't come. So now what's going to happen? And she's so anxious. Then still she's so beautifully dressed for the wedding. And she goes in the procession to the temple of Goddess Ambika. And going there, she offers her prayers. So she prays to Goddess Ambika, saying, "Oh, Goddess, please bless me so that I can have Sri Krishna as my husband." And then after praying, all the elderly ladies there, they all bless her. And then Princess Rukmini comes out of the temple. And now all these kings are there. Shishupal and Jarasandha, Salva, and so many other kings who have all come here to witness the wedding of Rukmini. So as they're looking at Rukmini, they're all just completely wonderstruck and mesmerized. And they all just fall off from their chariots and horses and elephants, because they've just been so lusty in their heart, and all of them were kind of desiring to attain Rukmini. And at the same time, they know that Shishupal is there who's going to get married to her. So all these kings are all just waiting, and they're, just falling off their horses, and Rukmini is walking so beautifully. And then suddenly she spots Krishna among them. So then Lord Krishna, he comes on his chariot, and immediately he just seizes Rukmini with his hand, and he pulls her onto the chariot, and he just drives away quickly. And in the meantime, Jarasandha and all the kings who were around, they were just looking at this, and they were just completely taken by shock, because they didn't expect that this was going to happen. And on seeing that Krishna has come and taken away Rukmini, they all become so furious. And that's where we stopped last week. So we will continue with what happens after this very dramatic scene of Krishna kidnapping Rukmini. So as soon as Krishna drove away in his chariot, and he was led by Balram, because Balram had also come there, anticipating that something might happen. So Jarasandha and all these other kings, on seeing Krishna taking Rukmini away, now they became so angry, and with all their armies, they started chasing Krishna, because they wanted to go behind him, fight with him, and they wanted to bring Rukmini back. So what happened? All these kings, they started shooting arrows at the army of the Yadu dynasty. That is the army of Lord Sri Krishna. Now all these soldiers, they were all driving behind Sri Krishna, all their chariots. And then when they saw that these kings were behind them, these kings were chasing them, all the Yadu warriors, they turned back to look at who's coming, who's chasing us. So they just turned back. And while this army of Jarasandha, Salva, and all the other kings, they were shooting arrows. And Srimad Bhagavatam describes it was like a cloud was hitting against the mountain, and as if there was a shower of rain. So just as when a cloud hits a mountain, what happens? It just pours down rain. So like that, the Yadu army was so strong, and all these arrows coming from these kings, they were shooting. They were going towards the Yadu dynasty warriors, but they were just pouring down like a big rain. But then we know how strong is Krishna's army. So they were also shooting back arrows. And by seeing all this, what happened? Rukmini became really frightened because she can see that there's this whole fight happening and Krishna had come just to take her away, and she got so anxious and she looked at Krishna with her beautiful eyes that were just trembling in fear. And Krishna is the all-powerful Lord. So just by looking at Rukmini's face, he knew that she is very anxious. So what did Krishna say? He just smiled at her and he said, Prahasya Bhagavan Aha Masma Bhaiva Malochane Vinangshat Tadhunai Vaitat Tavakai Shatravam Bhalam. So just smiling, he reassured Rukmini and he said, oh, beautiful-eyed one, don't worry. All these kings will be destroyed by your army. He says, Tavakai Shatravam Bhalam. So very beautifully here, Lord Krishna is giving that ownership to Rukmini. Although it's his huge army, he's saying, don't worry, your army will destroy them. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the Krishna book on this. He says how Sri Krishna wanted to reassure her and to say that all that which belonged to him now belonged to Rukmini, to his beautiful wife to be. Now, this is such an interesting thing that everyone can learn, because usually in this material world, what do we see in families and between husbands and wives? It is what is mine, what is yours. And there is, no cooperation. There is no, very often at least, there is not that unconditional love. And here we can see how the Supreme Lord Krishna is himself demonstrating that whatever belongs to me is yours, my dear Rukmini. So like that, he pacified her. And then now what happened? Lord Balram and Gada, that is the younger brother of Lord Krishna and Lord Balram. So both of them, along with all the Yadu soldiers, they went and they fought back with all these kings and they defeated them. And now, what did these kings have to do? They just had to accept that defeat. So not knowing what else to do, Jarasandha and all these other kings, they just went back. But some of them went to Shishupal, who was now completely devastated. Because let's just imagine his wedding is going to happen and there's this beautiful princess who's going to be his dear queen, and then suddenly she was just captured and taken away by someone else, and Shishupal just couldn't take it. So he just became so pale and morose and depressed, and he was like just completely on the ground. So all these kings, headed by Jarasandha, they went and they tried to console him. So they just spoke some philosophy. So they said, oh, Shishupal, don't worry. Happiness and distress, all this is non-permanent. Nothing lasts eternally. Everything is temporary. And everything happens only by the will of the Supreme Lord. So, not even knowing that Sri Krishna, who is the Supreme Lord, who was here personally standing in front of them, even though they could see him face to face, they couldn't acknowledge that. And here they are trying to pacify Shishupal by saying all this. And then they said that it is only because of time. Time is not favorable for us at the moment. And that's why all this has happened. So, oh Shishupal, don't worry. And then Jarasandha says, I have been defeated 17 times by Krishna's army, and only once did I win against him. So saying all this, they tried to pacify Shishupal. And then Shishupal was then, just listening to all this. He had no choice but just to accept it. And then he went back home. But in the meantime, what happened now? Now Rukmini, who is Rukmini's brother, he got very angry because he's the one who had arranged this marriage between Rukmini and Shishupal. So now his ego was completely hurt and he wanted to show his strength and his power. So what did he do? He made a promise, or he made a vow in front of all the kings, saying that if I don't go and kill Krishna and if I don't bring back Rukmini, then I will not enter Kundina again. That is, Kundina is the capital of Vidarbha. So he says, I will not come back here without having a good fight with Krishna. And saying this, Rukmini now goes on his chariot with his army. And he's trying to chase Krishna and he wants to go and fight with him now. Now, as his army was also coming along, now Rukmini, just in his chariot, he went closer to Krishna and he shot 3 arrows at him. And then he went and he just stood in front of Krishna and he said, just stand up and fight. And he said that, why have you stolen my sister? Just like how a crow would steal the butter that is meant for offering in the sacrifice. So he was trying to call Krishna as the stealer, as someone who just, stole his sister away. But we know that Krishna is Yajna Bhuk. That is, he is the supreme enjoyer. He is the one who actually accepts all that is offered in any yajna, and all our entire life is meant for the pleasure of Sri Krishna. And he has his different leelas and pastimes with all his devotees so that he can derive that pleasure. And by doing so, he also gives pleasure to all his devotees. Now, Rukmini, all that he could see was, here was Krishna, who's my enemy, and here he is, he's taken away my sister. And then he just started speaking historically, like, all kinds of things at Krishna. And now Krishna is the Supreme Lord in his own calm demeanor. What did he do? Now he shot arrows back at Rukmini, and he shot arrows at his chariot, at his horses, at his flag, and at his bow, and he just broke everything. And Rukmini was now trying to throw different weapons at Krishna. And whatever weapons he threw, Krishna, he just kind of, broke all of them. It was nothing for him. But still, the Lord fights. So, as we keep reading in all our scriptures, it is said that, Krishna could have just like that, just with a little snap of his finger, he could have just finished off Rukmini. But still he's fighting, he's using his arrows and he's using his bow and all this because he wants to enjoy being in that role. He wants to enjoy being a Kshatriya. He wants to enjoy being that husband of Rukmini who is fighting with the enemy and then who is winning her over. So he wants to relish all this, and that's why he's actually even fighting with Rukmini. So so Lord Krishna shoots these arrows, and then he just breaks down Rukmini completely. And Rukmini is still not giving up. And what does he do now? He just takes his sword, and now he's running to go and just fight with Krishna. And then at this point, now Krishna doesn't tolerate. So what does he do? Lord Krishna takes his sword and he was just about to go and kill Rukmini. Sorry. So he just pulled out his sword and he was just going to kill Rukmini, the brother of Rukmini. And at this time, what happens? Princess Rukmini just falls at the feet of Krishna, because after all, it's her brother. So now she is, she's feeling compassion for her brother. So now she's falling at Lord Krishna's feet and she's saying, Yogeshwara Prameyatman Deva Deva Jagatpate Hantum Narhasi Kalyana Bhrataram Me Mahabhuja. So Rukmini is now pleading to Krishna. She is saying, Oh Lord Krishna, you who is Yogeshwara, who is the Lord of all opulences, of all the mystic power and strength, who is immeasurable, Aprameyatman, who is the Supreme, who is immeasurable, and who is of unlimited strength, Mahabhuja. And then she says, Kalyana, O auspicious one. Now, why is she saying all these things? Because, first of all, she is addressing Krishna beautifully by glorifying him, by speaking about all his wonderful qualities. And she's trying to say that here is my brother who is nothing compared to who you are, O Shri Krishna. You are so great. You are supremely auspicious. You are all powerful. And here's my brother who is just such a normal, ordinary being. So please be compassionate and please let him go. Just forgive him. So saying this, she is pleading to Lord Krishna. And then what happens on seeing Rukmini's compassion, seeing Rukmini's beautiful face pleading, what happens? Lord Krishna, instead of killing Rukmini, what does he do? He just shaves off his hair on his head and his mustache and everything. And then he leaves him a little bit disfigured, which it is said is actually equal to killing in those days. So he just disfigures him and then he just ties him up with a piece of cloth. Now, in the meantime, what has happened? Lord Balram and all the army of the Yadu dynasty, they have fought with the army of Rukmini and they have defeated them. And Balram comes here. And now Balram sees this scene where Lord Krishna has just disfigured Rukmini by shaving off his hair in parts on his head and his mush. And seeing this, now Balram is a little bit upset. Now he takes the position of the elder brother of Krishna. So with that Vatsalya bhav, with that love for Krishna as an elder, he chastises him. And he says, "Oh Krishna, what is this? What have you done? This is completely improper. The way you have just disfigured a relative who is your brother-in-law. And this is not at all right." And he is now getting a little bit angry at Krishna. And then also to pacify Rukmini, he says, "Oh Princess Rukmini, now you should not be worried about all this. Everyone has to face the consequences of their own actions. So no matter whatever has happened, it is all Rukmini's own doing. It's his own actions that he's repaying now." And like this, he tries to say different things to Krishna and to Rukmini, and he's trying to pacify both of them, and he's trying to reconcile this situation. And then by doing that, he's asking Krishna to just release Rukmini and to just cast him away from their family. So then now what happens? Rukmini is released, but now Rukmini is still very upset because he had made a promise that he's not going to return to Kundina without bringing Rukmini. So what does he do? Just in that very place in the outskirts of Kundina, he builds a cottage for himself. He builds a residence called Boja Khatha. So he builds that and he just stays there until the end of his life. So now what happens? So after defeating all these kings, Lord Krishna and Balram, along with Rukmini, they return to Dwaraka. And here, Lord Krishna marries Rukmini very beautifully as per all the Vedic injunctions. So we can see how Lord Krishna is beautifully playing all these different parts. So even though he's a Supreme Lord, he's marrying her as per the Vedic rituals. So the whole city was jubilant. The whole of Dwaraka was decorated and there were festoons and canopies and flowers, flower decorations everywhere, and incense burning in all the homes. And all the people, they were all so beautifully dressed up for the wedding. And they all came and they gave presents and gifts to Lord Krishna and to his new bride, Queen Rukmini. So they all came and they blessed the new couple. And all the royal families had also come for the wedding. That is the Kurus, the Pandavas, and the King Bhishmaka's whole family. So initially, even though they had arranged the wedding with Shishupal, now they are actually feeling happy that Rukmini's marriage is happening with Shri Krishna. So that's what happens. Lord Krishna was united with his dear consort, Rukmini, who is Srimati Radharani herself. So then what happens after that, we see in one of the next chapters of how Manmata, who is Cupid, is born as the son of Lord Krishna and Rukmini as Pradyumna. So we know that how Manmata was initially burnt to ashes by Lord Shiva. But then now he is appearing again as the son of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna as Pradyumna. And then there are other pastimes that are involving Pradyumna as well. But we will go into another sweet chapter, which is a beautiful conversation between Lord Krishna and Queen Rukmini. So once Lord Krishna just wanted to tease Rukmini, just to see her beautiful face in an angry mood. So he just wanted to provoke her, because Rukmini was always this very sweet wife of Lord Krishna. So she was very chaste and she was always devoted to him. And she always tried to please him with everything that she did. Now, Krishna just wanted to have a little bit of fun. So he wanted to provoke her, just to see how is she reacting? What is she doing? Let me see. So like that feeling, what happened? Krishna, once he was in the palace of Rukmini. Now, Rukmini's palace was beautiful. Now, we know that Lord Krishna had 16,108 wives, and each of them had their own palace. And with each queen, Lord Krishna was personally present, and he had beautiful exchanges with them. And in Rukmini's palace, again, he has this beautiful little exchange with her. So it is said that Rukmini's palace had beautiful canopies that were studded with pearls and gems. And there were strings of different flowers like jasmine and parijata that were just hanging everywhere. And the fragrance of these flowers brought in the aroma of a garden into the room. And there were swarms of bees that were being attracted to all these flowers. And lamps were lit on the walls of this palace. And there were incense sticks that were burning and that were giving out a very sweet aroma that just drifted through the air from the windows of Rukmini's palace. And also the moonlight was shining beautifully through the windows. So one day, when in this beautiful setting, Lord Krishna was resting on Queen Rukmini's bed. And Rukmini was serving her dear husband beautifully by fanning him with a chamara. Now Rukmini, who is she? She is Lakshmi Devi herself. So she was so beautiful, wearing different ornaments and very, sweetly and charmingly she was smiling at her dear husband. And she was just wearing these lovely tinkling anklets. And holding this chamara in her hand, she was fanning Lord Krishna with beautiful curly locks of hair, and just looking at him with the corner of her eyes, she was fanning him. And as she was doing, Lord Krishna just looked at her and he said, "Oh, Princess Rukmini, there were so many kings who wanted to marry you. And actually, you should have married one of them, because they are all so powerful and, they are more suitable to you than me." He said, "Who am I? I'm like, nowhere equal to your strength or your beauty and to your glorious nature. I'm just running away, and then I'm not even attached to any family life. I just kidnapped you because I just wanted to curb the pride and arrogance of Shishupal and Jarasandha and all these kings. And that's the reason I just kidnapped you. So it's not like I care about any family life. So maybe, you should just get married to someone else who is more suitable to you. Now, hearing this, Rukmini was completely shattered because she really took it seriously to her heart, because she couldn't imagine Krishna speaking like this to her. So what happened? She was just frightened and she just became so anxious and she just fainted and fell on the ground. Now, Lord Krishna didn't anticipate this. He thought maybe she will get angry and she will speak, oh no, or something like that. And seeing Rukmini just fall down, what did he do? He just picked her up immediately. He got down from the bed and he just picked up Rukmini, and then he just caressed her and he just embraced her. And then he said, "Oh, Princess Rukmini, don't worry. My dear beloved one, I just wanted to provoke you. See how you would react. I just wanted to see that anger in your beautiful face. And that's the reason why I said all this. Don't worry. You are my chaste, beautiful wife, and I'm always there with you." So when he said this, then Rukmini just steadied her mind, and then she became calm and she felt, okay, what happened was just like nothing. I mean, Krishna didn't really mean this. So now Rukmini is also a very intelligent lady. So after all, she is Srimati Radharani. So now she started speaking very tactfully, trying to refute every claim that Krishna was making. So to whatever statements that Lord Krishna said, he was saying, "I'm not suitable for you." So now Rukmini said, "Yes, of course, even I'm not suitable for you because you're the all-powerful one and you're the most supremely beautiful. You are unimaginably strong and you are completely unparalleled. You are uncomparable. So you have rightly said that we are both not suited to each other." So like this, whatever Krishna said, she tried to say something in an opposite way, but which glorified Sri Krishna. So maybe another time we can actually look at just those verses, that beautiful conversation between Sri Krishna and Rukmini. So if we look at Canto 10, Chapter 60, verses 34 to 48, we can see how beautifully Rukmini is glorifying Sri Krishna for all his qualities. And then she's saying, "You are my ultimate shelter." And she's saying that, of course, you and I are unmatched. Nobody is equal to you. And then she says that I will always be devoted to you. So on hearing this, now Krishna is again telling her, and he says, "I just wanted to hear all this from you. And that's the reason I was trying to just provoke you a bit. And I just wanted to hear all this." And saying this, both of them then again just continued their beautiful leelas together. And then Lord Krishna said that, "You are my most beloved, dearest consort." So we can see how Queen Rukmini portrayed these wonderful qualities of being a chaste wife, of being someone who was completely devoted to Sri Krishna. And she was very strong in her determination. There is also another little pastime where once Satyabhama wanted to, show her strength, and she wanted to show that Lord Krishna was her, and she, with that possessive mood, she wanted to, show her devotion to the Lord. So then Narad Muni comes into the picture, and then he says, okay, so you sell Krishna to me, and then you have to get him back from me by giving a lot of wealth. And so what happens? Satyabhama, she wants to organize this Tulabharam. So where Lord Krishna is placed on a balancing scale, and then she puts a lot of wealth and jewelry and everything on the other side of the scale, trying to balance it and trying to, get back Krishna. But she doesn't. Eventually what happens when Rukmini comes, and then she just places one tulsi leaf on top of that whole pile of jewelry and wealth. Just by placing that one tulsi leaf with love and devotion, what happens? Now Krishna raises up, and then they are able to get Krishna back. So by that, what did we learn is Rukmini's love and sincere devotion for Shri Krishna. And we also see the mahima of the tulsi leaf, of how auspicious the tulsi leaf is, and how tulsi bestows devotion. She is bhakti pradayini. So we can see that all these personalities, whether it is Rukmini Devi, or whether it is Mother Yashoda, or whether it is Tulsi Maharani, now from all of them, what we can learn is this wonderful, beautiful quality of submissiveness and surrender, and to serve Krishna with love. So in fact, yesterday in one of the lectures, I was hearing about this word anusar. That is, how do we follow in the footsteps of very elevated devotees? It is with three important qualities. That is, through our capacity, by taking inspiration from them, and through our own realization. So by trying to absorb these three qualities, we can try to follow in the footsteps of these exalted personalities, because we cannot try to just imitate them, because we are living in this material world, and there is no way that we can match the complete surrender and the devotion that we see in the spiritual world. That at the same time, with our sincere efforts, we can try to follow in the footsteps of these devotees. We can see to the best of our capacity, we can try to serve. And we can draw inspiration from all of them and be inspired to serve them. And also we can try to reflect, we can try to meditate, and we can get realizations of how sometimes we may make mistakes, but then we can realize, and then we can see, okay, how can I improve? How can I serve better? So like that, we can try to serve Shri Krishna with love and devotion. So on that note, we will end today's class. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Thank you everyone for joining us, and please join us again tomorrow for another interesting lecture from Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.